What would you do if your family stole your future and then smiled at you over dinner like nothing happened? My name is Callie Monroe. I'm 23. And on Christmas Eve, I discovered that my own father and stepmother had stolen a $450,000 house meant for me. A gift from my grandfather, a home I never even knew existed. They lived in it, took photos in it, brought me over for fake family dinners in it. And I had no idea until my grandfather walked in and said one sentence that detonated everything. But before we get to that, you need to know what led to that moment, because betrayal like this doesn't explode all at once. It builds quietly, like rot behind a perfect wall. My story starts with a death. The day I was born was the day my mother, Clara Callahan, died. I never met her. All I had was a worn photograph, she's smiling, eyes, soft hand resting on a swollen belly. Me. For my father, Thomas Monroe, I became a living reminder of everything he lost. He never said it out loud, but he didn't have to. He barely looked at me. When he did, it was always sideways, like I was something too painful to face directly. His gaze would float just past my shoulder, like if he avoided eye contact long enough, I might vanish altogether. When I was 3, he married Evelyn, and within a year, Brielle was born. That was the day the world split into one for the golden child and one for the ghost. We lived in a quiet upper-middle-class suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. Our house was nothing extraordinary from the outside, but inside, it told the full story. Brielle's room, a pastel dream, custom wallpaper, canopy, bed designer toys that Evelyn insisted were developmental tools. Visitors would get grand tours of her little palace like she was some baby Mozart. My room, the attic. Not in a figurative way. I literally lived in the attic. It was slanted so low I'd bang my head if I sat up too fast. Winters felt like punishment icy drafts whispering through the walls. Summers suffocating. A box fan and thin sheet were my only defense. But hey, at least I had a roof over my head. That phrase followed me everywhere. It became my family's battle cry, their excuse, their mantra. You should be grateful. At least you have a roof over your head. They gave me Brielle's hand-me-downs, shoes with worn soles, jackets with missing zippers, her old backpack still embroidered with her name. On birthdays, she got spa parties and horseback rides. I got dollar store candles and leftover cupcakes. I remember one Christmas like it happened this morning. I was 8. Brielle was 4. The tree sparkled. Dozens of gifts, laughter, warm cider in mugs. She tore into a massive box and squealed it was a real child's piano. My dad beamed. Anything for my little prodigy, he said, running his hand over her curls. My gift was handed to me last, a small box wrapped in wrinkled paper. No ribbon, no tag. Inside was a doll, but not a new one. I recognized it instantly. It was the one Brielle had screamed about months ago, said it was creepy, and threw into the Goodwill box. The yarn hair was ripped. One of the eyes was missing. I hesitated. Not in anger, just confusion. That was enough. Evelyn's voice slid across the room like cold butter on glass. "What's wrong, Callie?" She asked, her smile sharp and insincere. "It's a perfectly good doll. Some children don't even have gifts, you know." I nodded. I always nodded. I said thank you. I always said thank you. Because in that house, gratitude wasn't appreciated, it was required. Every moment of my life was spent trying not to take up space. If you were invisible, at least they couldn't hate you. But there was one person who did see me, my grandfather, Henry Callahan, my mom's dad. He lived in Chicago, ran a massive construction company, and had a voice like gravel dipped in whiskey. When he called, he didn't just ask how school was going, he asked what I was reading, if I was challenging myself, if I needed anything. And I always lied. "Everything's good, Grandpa, I'm fine." Because I didn't want him to worry. Because I didn't want to be seen as the weak one. Because I didn't want to ruin the only relationship that felt real. He'd say things like, "You've got your mother's fire. Don't let anyone snuff it out." and I'd smile, pretend like I believed that fire still existed. But the truth. By high school graduation, it was just flickers in the ashes, but that fire wasn't dead yet, and it would reignite the day I found out just how far Evelyn and Thomas were willing to go to erase me, starting with my college future. They say every family has a moment that defines it. For mine, it happened on a hot June afternoon right after I graduated high school. The summer sun was pouring through the kitchen windows. I still remember the way the light hit the granite countertop, like it was spotlighting the scene for a play I didn't realize I'd been cast in. I had worked relentlessly to get to that day. Late nights in the attic with a flashlight and secondhand textbooks, zero help from tutors, zero encouragement from home, just raw determination and dreams of Ohio State, where I'd finally matter. I clutched the acceptance letter in my trembling hands. It had sweat smudges on the corners from how tightly I'd been holding it. I found my father and Evelyn in the kitchen sipping champagne. Champagne. I hesitated at the doorway. They're celebrating me, I stupidly thought. I actually believed just for a second that maybe they'd seen my letter, that maybe, for once, they were proud. Then I saw the banner. Congrats, Brielle, Regional Spelling Bee Champion. She was 12. She won a spelling contest. I stood there blinking, trying to will the situation into something less humiliating. When they finally noticed me, I stepped forward and carefully placed my letter on the granite counter. My hands were shaking. I got in, I said. Ohio State. Full acceptance. Evelyn picked it up like it was a menu she hadn't ordered. That's nice. My father looked at it, barely reading. Then, without missing a beat, he asked, "And how do you plan to pay for that?" No smile, no hug, just ice. I was hoping you could help. Maybe co-sign a loan just to get started. I'll get a job. I'll work through school. Silence. Then Evelyn let out a tight little laugh, the kind of laugh people make when they're about to deliver a fatal blow with a smile. Oh, Callie, be realistic. We don't have money just lying around. Everything extra is invested in Brielle's future. Her voice was smooth, clinical, like she was explaining a tax document. She has real potential. Evelyn added, flipping her sleek blonde hair over one shoulder. She's going to be attending a private prep school next year. We have to prioritize. Prioritize. That word hit me like a bullet. They didn't even pretend to hide it anymore. Brielle got prep school. I got attic ceilings and a pat on the head. I turned to my father, my last hope. I searched his face for anything, a flicker of guilt, of resistance, of love. He looked away, raised his champagne glass, and mumbled, "Evelyn's right. Brielle is the priority." That was the moment the switch flipped. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I just shut down. Something inside me, some fragile thread of hope, snapped. That night, I packed a single duffel bag with my worn clothes and faded dreams. No goodbyes, no scene. I walked out the front door and left behind the only home I had ever known. They didn't call. They didn't chase me. And maybe that hurt the most. What came next? It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't brave. It was survival. I got a job shelving boxes at a 24-hour supermarket. Night shifts, dead eyes, frozen fingers, my back always aching. I found a one-room apartment downtown, the kind where the pipes screech and the neighbors scream through the walls, where the air conditioner is a box fan and the fridge never closes properly. Dinner was dollar ramen, day-old bread, water with lemons stolen from the condiment station. I didn't live, I endured. And while I scraped by, Evelyn posted pictures of Brielle's birthday party, a custom cake, a new phone, a surprise horse-riding weekend in Kentucky. Each post felt like a punch I had to swallow without flinching. But I kept going, because one day I knew I'd be free. And then one phone call changed everything. It was a Thursday. I had just gotten off work, hand-sore socks damp from a broken cooler. I almost didn't answer when I saw the number Henry Callahan, my grandfather. His voice boomed like it always did. "How's my brilliant girl staying out of trouble?" I forced a smile he couldn't see. "I'm good, Grandpa. Just taking a gap year to figure things out." He paused. "Don't worry about money, sweetheart. I've always made sure your father had what he needed for your education. It's all taken care of." I froze. What he kept talking, saying how Thomas was just trying to teach me independence, how he definitely made sure everything was covered. But that couldn't be true. Could it? I wanted to believe it was just Grandpa being sweet, speaking in metaphors, but something inside me clicked. A slow, dark realization began to settle in. If Grandpa had already sent money, then where had it gone? I didn't know it yet, but that one innocent comment from Grandpa Henry was the match. The next 2 years, just gasoline. 2 years passed. I worked. I survived. I stayed quiet. I told myself it was temporary just until I found my footing. But when every dollar goes to rent and Raymond, even hope starts to feel like a luxury you can't afford. And then Evelyn called. I hadn't heard her voice in over 700 days. It was syrupy, too sweet, like poisoned honey. "Callie, darling, I have the most wonderful news. Your father and I bought a new house. It's beautiful. Big yard. Gorgeous kitchen. We're throwing a housewarming party this Saturday, and it just wouldn't be the same without you. You have to come. It wouldn't feel like home without our whole family." I nearly dropped the phone. Family home. They'd made it clear I wasn't part of either. But somewhere buried under the layers of pain and anger, that tiny flicker of stupid hope still lived. The kind you can't kill. The kind that whispers, maybe they changed. Maybe they finally see you. So I went. I spent $20 I didn't have on a bottle of cheap Prosecco and stood on the front steps of a sprawling cream-colored colonial that looked like something out of an interior design magazine. Inside, everything gleamed marble counters, custom cabinetry, art-lined walls. There were photos everywhere, dozens, family photos. Thomas, Evelyn, Brielle, smiling, posing, like the perfect little American family. I wasn't in a single one. Until that day, because suddenly in the middle of the party, Evelyn clapped her hands together and chirped, "Everyone, let's get a family photo in the new living room. Come on, Callie, front and center with your father." What front and center? For years I had been left out of birthday shots, Christmas cards, graduation pictures. And now suddenly I was front and center. The whole thing felt staged, forced, like they were performing a scene for someone watching. But I smiled. I posed. I stood stiffly beside my father while Evelyn clutched Brielle and beamed. Click. Just one picture, I thought. But then it happened again. And again. Every time they hosted something, Thanksgiving birthdays, summer barbecues, I'd get another call. "You must come, Callie, we miss you." Every event included another family photo, always posed, always orchestrated. At first I told myself they were trying. Maybe this was them making amends. Maybe it just took time. But the feeling never went away, that cold itch beneath my skin, that sense that something was wrong. Then came the barbecue, and Mrs. Marjorie Winston. She was Evelyn's neighbor, mid-60s, retired elementary school teacher with a sharp tongue and a sharper memory. She had made nosiness into an Olympic-level sport. She cornered me near the lemonade station, her eyes scanning my simple department store dress like it personally offended her. "Oh, Callie," she said, voice dripping with sugary pity. "It's so heartwarming that your parents still include you in everything. They're saints, truly. After everything you've been through, must be so hard with your situation." My heart froze. My situation, I didn't ask her what she meant. I didn't have to. They'd been spinning a narrative, telling everyone I was damaged, difficult, emotionally unstable, that they were generous for keeping me in their lives. They were building a story, a myth, and I was the prop. A fake redemption arc for two people who had stolen everything from me and turned me into a supporting character in their performance. That night, I sat in my car outside that pristine house and stared at the glowing windows. For 2 years, I had tried to believe. to give the benefit of the doubt. But now I knew. The warmth wasn't real. The photos weren't about me. They were about evidence, proof, something to show someone. But who? And then, on Christmas Eve, it all came crashing down. My phone rang. It was Grandpa Henry. He sounded stronger than ever. "Callie, I'm in town. I'm outside your house right now, sweetheart. You didn't tell me it was this nice. Get out here. I can't wait to see you." My heart stopped. "My house," I stammered. "Grandpa. I live downtown, the Callaway building." Pause. "What? Don't be silly. I'm at the address your father gave me. Wyndham Lane, the place you said you loved. I sent you the gift card for the housewarming, remember?" He chuckled. I didn't. Because suddenly everything made sense. The staged photos, the fake smiles, the desperate invites, the lies. They were never for me. They were for him. The drive to Wyndham Lane felt like sleepwalking into a nightmare. The Ohio air outside was freezing, but my palms were slick with sweat. My breath fogged up the windshield. Every streetlight I passed lit up another piece of the puzzle, and each piece made me sick. Grandpa Henry thought that house was mine. He thought I'd been living there, that I loved it, that I'd been sending him pictures. I pulled into the driveway. Everything looked the same, perfectly trimmed hedges, holiday lights twinkling like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. Inside, laughter spilled from the dining room, the scent of roasted turkey cinnamon pine, the illusion of joy so thick it nearly knocked me backwards. Evelyn spotted me first. "Oh, Callie, there you are," she said, voice bright, too bright. "Come in, darling, come in." My father, Thomas, turned toward me with the same forced smile he used in every photo. Brielle sat near the fire, quiet and pale, and at the head of the table, standing tall in a navy sweater and proud grin, was Grandpa Henry Callahan. "There's my girl," he boomed, wrapping me in a bear hug. He smelled like Old Spice and sawdust, like memory, like safety. "You didn't tell me the house looked this good in person. Your father's pictures didn't do it justice." My throat closed. He stepped back, studying me with twinkling eyes. "Though I do wonder, in all those photos, you're always dressed up like you're visiting, never just lounging at home. Bit strange, huh?" It hit me like a wrecking ball. He had noticed. He just hadn't questioned it until now. But then he turned to the room wineglass, raised high voice booming with joy. "Callie, sweetheart," he said, "tell me. Do you like the house I gave you for your 21st birthday?" The world went silent. The air left the room. Time froze. Every face turned toward me, expectant, smiling. I looked at him, then at the gleaming hardwood floors, the crown molding the fireplace, the place where Evelyn had once called me our poor, troubled girl. My lips parted. "Grandpa," I whispered, voice hollow, I never got a house." His smile faded like fog in sunlight. "What?" he asked, blinking. "I never received a house," I said louder. "I live downtown, in a one-room apartment above a pawn shop. I've never lived here. You could have heard a snowflake drop on the floor." Grandpa Henry's eyes narrowed. He looked from me to my father to Evelyn, and something in him snapped. "I sent a certified check for $450. Thanks $1,000, he said slowly, his voice now low and dangerous. "Thomas, I sent it to you, to buy Callie her first home. That was her mother's wish." Thomas turned gray. He opened his mouth and closed it again. And then Evelyn, always the strategist, jumped in. "Oh, Dad, it's all just a silly mix-up," she chirped a little too loud. "We were going to surprise her. It was meant to be a special reveal." "The paperwork got delayed." "Stop," Grandpa said. Just one word. Flat. Deadly. He turned in a full circle, scanning the house. The furniture. The framed photos. Photos he now knew were staged. Built on a lie. "You brought her here?" he said to her own stolen house. "You took my gift and used her as a prop. To lie to me. To lie to everyone." He stepped forward, his voice rising. "You exploited her. You excluded her. and then you paraded her around like some broken charity case while you lived in a house bought with her money? Evelyn's smile was gone. Thomas was trembling. And then Evelyn cracked. She shrieked, "I did what I had to do for Brielle. That money would have been wasted on Callie. She'd have blown it on some liberal arts nonsense. At least my daughter has a future." The words hung there. Ugly, exposed, poisonous. But for me, they unlocked something else. A memory. Grandpa's call 2 years ago. "I've always made sure your father had what he needed for your education." Oh, God. It wasn't just the house. It was everything. I turned to Grandpa, my voice shaking. The money for college. When they said they didn't have it, did you send anything back then? He stared at me. His eyes widened, and in that moment, I didn't need an answer. The horror on his face said it all. They hadn't just stolen my house. They had stolen my future. Every chance, every opportunity, every escape route I had tried to build, gone. The silence after that moment was surreal. Guests stood frozen near the door, plates untouched, eyes wide. Even the ever-gossipy Mrs. Marjorie Winston was speechless, though her brain was clearly recording every word to replay across the neighborhood by morning. My father Thomas collapsed into a chair, head in his hands, sobbing. "Evelyn!" She was still shouting, not out of guilt, but panic. "You don't understand," she wailed. "We had to prioritize Brielle's future. The world isn't fair. I did what any mother would do." Her voice was shrill, desperate, like a cornered animal. "You would have wasted it," she spat at me, "all of it. You were always second best, Callie. You know it. Everyone knows it." I didn't say a word, because her hate didn't surprise me. What surprised me was how little it hurt. That day, something inside me had already changed. The pain had turned to steel, the shame had burned clean. And in that cold silence, Grandpa Henry turned to me. His eyes, those kind, weathered, deeply furious eyes, locked on mine. "Get your coat," he said. "You're coming with me. Tonight." I blinked. "I don't have anything else to get," I whispered. "Nothing here is mine." He nodded, once, tight, jaw clenched. I walked toward the door, the party forgotten, the lies still crackling in the corners like burnt paper. As I passed my father, he stood wobbly, broken, and tried to speak. "Callie, I'm sorry, I never meant—" I stopped, looked at him, really looked at him. For years I had twisted myself in knots for this man's approval, hungered for his affection, believed somehow that if I worked harder, smiled wider, stayed quieter, he might love me. But now, looking at this man, small, spineless, sunken, I felt nothing. No rage, no grief, just a dull, vast emptiness. "I hope it was worth it," I said. And then I turned away. As I neared the door, Brielle reached out a hand on my arm. Her voice was almost a whisper. "Callie, I didn't know. I think I always knew something wasn't right. I'm sorry." I paused, looked at the golden child wrapped in privilege, soaked in protection, but now hollow-eyed. And for the first time, I realized she wasn't the villain. She was just another product of the system. I didn't reply, because she wasn't ready to hear the truth, and I wasn't going to waste one more second explaining myself. That night I rode with Grandpa Henry back to Chicago. The car was quiet, no music, just the hum of the highway and the occasional sigh from a man who had just watched his son fall to pieces. We didn't talk about what happened. There was nothing to say. The truth had come out, and it was ugly. A betrayal not of a moment, but of a lifetime. The next 6 months rebuilding, brick by brick, painful, slow, uneven, but real. Grandpa didn't coddle me. He didn't hand me a mansion or offer hush money. What he gave me was far more valuable a job. At his company, Callahan & Sons Construction, one of the largest private construction firms in the Midwest, not in an office, not as the boss's granddaughter. He started me as an assistant project manager, on site. 6 a.m. shifts, steel-toed boots, clipboards, dust in my hair. "You've got your mother's mind," he told me, handing me my first hard hat. Time to put it to work, so I did. I learned blueprints, scheduling, permits, subcontractor dynamics. I kept my head down, took notes, asked questions, listened more than I spoke. The first few weeks, nobody took me seriously. Until one day, in the middle of a tense logistics meeting, I spotted a flaw in the plumbing layout for a 30-story tower. A design flaw that would have delayed the project by weeks. I pointed it out, nervous, voice shaking. The room went silent. Sal, a gruff foreman who'd built more towers than I'd taken showers, stared at me for a long beat. Then he grunted, "Good catch, Monroe. You just saved us a month." That was it. No applause, no confetti, just 5 words. But those 5 words meant more than everything my father never said. One day, a thick envelope arrived at my apartment. It was from my father, Thomas. His handwriting was shaky. The return address still said Wyndham Lane. I stared at it, sat with it on the counter, let the silence stretch. I was in the middle of painting my living room wall a fresh, hopeful color called New Dawn. I looked at the envelope, then back at the wall, and I picked up the roller. Because I wasn't going to let the past back in, not even for a letter. Exactly 1 year after that Christmas Eve, after the explosion, the silence, the departure. Grandpa Henry invited me to the rooftop of a tower we had just finished building. It wasn't just any tower. It was our biggest project that year. A gleaming glass and steel monument that now stood tall in the heart of downtown Chicago. The wind whipped hard up there, biting cold, relentless, unforgiving, just like life had been. He stood beside me, his coat flapping his face, weathered and proud. "You did good," he said quietly, almost to himself. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled something out. A small, cool metal key attached to a simple ring. No bow, no ceremony, just a key. He pressed it into my palm. "This isn't a gift," he said. "This is your first commission check." I blinked. "What you've been earning every cent." This, he nodded toward the skyline, "is your future. That key, that's the down payment for your first place. Go get something that's truly yours. You earned it." I stared at the key in my hand. It felt heavier than it looked. Cool metal, sharp edges, solid, real. Unlike the false promises I grew up with. Unlike the stolen home I was never allowed to live in. This was mine. And not because someone handed it to me out of guilt or shame, but because I worked for it, fought for it, bled for it. That night I sat in the empty apartment I'd just signed for. My own space. My name on the lease, my choices on the walls. The paint was still wet. The couch was secondhand. The kitchen was tiny. But it was mine. And for the first time in my life, I understood something no one had ever taught me. Home isn't something people give you. It's something you build, brick by brick, boundary by boundary, choice by choice. And nothing, not betrayal, not greed, not blood ties, can take that away once you've built it on your own. I never opened that letter from my father, and I never returned to Wyndham Lane. But I don't hate them, because hate takes energy, and I'd rather use that energy to build. Thank you for listening to my story. I know it wasn't easy, it wasn't for me either, but I'm finally in a place of peace, of strength, of clarity. And now I want to ask you, what would you have done in my situation? Would you have taken them to court, fought to reclaim every cent they stole? Or would you have walked away like I did, silently and with dignity? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this story hit you somewhere deep, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes the greatest revenge is never needing one.